project is on reducing the speed limit at night across the entire New York State because we are trying to keep people safe on the roads during the night.
I just want to say, I want you guys to keep an open mind. I know, in the beginning, I'm sure you guys are going to be like, well, this is dumb, but just figure this out. This is the main issue that's going on right now. Motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death among Americans aged 2 to 34. And nighttime crashes constitute for 70% of those deaths.
Speed limit. Well, this is just a definition of speed limit, but the speed limit is a legally set maximum allowed speed imposed on vehicles traveling in a given locality or on a particular road. And this is pretty basic, but as you increase travel speeds of vehicles, you increase the energy involved in crashes, which means you have injuries and more deaths when crashes happen, which is why our goal is to reduce the speed limit at night.
These are just some of the threats that you guys think that happens when you are driving at night. The most imminent threat of driving at night is decreased visibility. With nighttime driving conditions, drivers experience an average 50% loss of vision. This can make differentiating objects such as cars and trees extremely difficult. The distance the driver can see ahead is also decreased. The driver is limited to only the area directly ahead of them with their headlights. People cannot see far ahead, so they will not be able to stop quick enough in the event of an accident. At night, the peripheral vision is severely hindered, and dark adaptation decreases as you get older. With dark, if you guys aren't aware, dark adaptation is when you see a flash of light and it's your pupil's ability to dilate quickly. And so when you get older, it takes longer for your pupils to go back, to dilate. So, and also, streetlights do not cover a wide enough range to accommodate the driver's vision.
Alright, so one of the main things at night, one of the problems is that drunk driving occurs more at night. And 50% of crashes at night are alcohol related, so that's pretty scary on the road, which is why, again, if you have a speed limit, we all have to be careful. And also the reaction time. If you're going slower, you'll be able to react to things like this that will be able to scare you and maybe even hurt you or injure you.
There's also another thing at night is that you can't see animals. There are 725,000 to 1.5 million wildlife vehicle collisions, or WVCs, in the United States every year. And there's over 200 human fatalities annually in the U.S. because of the WVCs. WVCs cause 29,000 human injuries annually, and more than 75,000 deer are killed every year by vehicle collisions. Now, we did just do the number for deer, but I mean, there's other animals, turkey, any sort of wildlife that you guys come across running across the road.
Anything, rabbits, fox, whatever. Also, another thing at night you have to be careful of is that more drivers are falling asleep behind the wheel. And so sleep-related crashes are more likely to happen at night or during the mid-afternoon when drivers are more likely to be sleepy. These crashes often involve a single vehicle going up the road with no evidence of braking or other attempt to prevent the crash. Although speed-related crashes also make up a disproportionate portion of rear-end and head-on collisions. And this was a study done, and it says that 4.2% of drivers reported falling asleep at the wheel in just the previous 30 days. But that kind of sounds small, but really, if you think of how many cars you see every day, 1 out of every 25 are falling asleep behind the wheel. So the actual number of drivers falling asleep is a lot higher, as you can see. So the reported was 4.2%, but it really is more like 15% to 33% of those crashes were actually not reported, but due to the falling asleep behind the wheel.
So let's talk about headlights. Night driving is more dangerous because the distance you can see ahead of you is, or to the side of you, is reduced. You should drive slower than you would in daylight, especially in unfamiliar areas and on narrow, winding roads. Your headlights cover about 350 feet ahead of the car, and it is important that you drive at a safe speed that allows you to react and stop safely within that distance. This is called driving within your range of your headlights. And we found that in a lot of studies that are done, most people driving on the highway at night, they're not driving within their range of the headlights because they're driving 60, 70 miles an hour, and it actually takes a while. See on this one right here, at 60 miles per hour, a vehicle will reach an object that first appears within the range of the driver's headlights in less than 3 seconds. When factoring in braking distance and reaction time, the driver is driving blind for almost 1 second. The time driving blind increases with speed.
Okay, so this is a video I found, and this is your visibility driving at night. And this is normal speed. This is not somebody speeding, this is a normal speed limit, which is why, again, we need to reduce it at night. Normal speed limit, and I want to see if you notice anything on this clip. So you have to like watch carefully, but you probably won't notice it. So that little white thing you saw was actually a person, and it doesn't look like a person. You don't even know what that was, but you're just focusing on the road. I'm not sure if you did get to see it, but maybe you did. But most people, when you're watching this, you're looking straight ahead, and that little white blur is actually a person.
Literally on the side of the road, and you guys, if you're going 6 miles an hour, you would not be able to see it.
And that's normal speed. You can't even see
and
that.
Think about like the reaction times that we talked about. You would not be able to stop in time to not hit the person.
Yeah, like God forbid he happened to walk in front of you, that would end up bad. So that is one example.
So in 2011, there were almost 10,000 deaths, or nearly a third of all motor vehicle fatalities occurring in speed-related crashes. And in just 1 year, 51% of the speeding crashes occurred at night. So that was in New York State.
Okay, so speeding is not a big deal. I know probably most of you, maybe not all, but at night you think there's not many people on the road, or maybe not people at all, but let's speed, go faster, speed, whatever, because we're not going to get caught and whatever. But that's the things that we showed you, like falling asleep behind the wheel, or the animals, or the drunk driving accidents. Those are what happens, and you can't speed, or this is what happens. So now these are the consequences of the speeding. So if you think it's okay to drive fast at night, well, this is This car accident, two teenagers were killed, and they were going 80 miles per hour. And in this car accident, two kids were injured, and their two parents were killed. And in this car accident, this guy was hit by a car driving 90 miles per hour, and the two were killed. This car accident, 3 were killed, hit by a car going 85 miles per hour. And even though you can't see it, it's wrapped around a pole and like the stop sign.
These all occurred at night, by the way.
Yes, and these all occurred. This car was going 90 miles per hour, and all 4 teenagers were killed, which is a pretty scary accident because it went around the pole. This was a head-on collision, and it was hit by a car speeding 85 miles per hour, and the husband and wife in it died in a matter of seconds. Hit by a car, this right here, family of 4 turned over, killed, and including 2 small children. And this one, hit by a car going 85 miles per hour, and 4 teenagers were killed from the front and the back. And lastly, this one is the white car was hit by the red car at 95 miles per hour, and the mother and daughter in this car were killed. And this we all know about. I'm sure you've heard about the Shannon Shaker crash. Even though there's other things related, I'm not sure about the alcohol and drug, but the guy that hit these kids was speeding. And he was weaving in and out, and he happened to hit them, and that's when they flipped over. And the 2 Shed kids were killed, and the other 2 were injured and doing okay now, thankfully. But there's another example that happens even near us, coming from a Siena basketball game, like an everyday thing, and going normal speed, but people there, again, were speeding.
Okay. So now we're going to look at the cost aspect of it. According to the Department of Energy, every 5 miles an hour you drive over 60 miles an hour is like spending an extra 25 cents per gallon. That's a pretty big number. So it's like, say you're driving on the highway 70 miles an hour, it's like you're paying $4 instead of $3.50 right now.
And with like the gas prices so high, you really wouldn't want to spend that. So it's another thing. Well, if you speed, then you have to pay more. So.
Just think about that next time you guys are
And again,
driving fast.
insurance. I'm not sure if you guys are paying insurance yet, but if you are, it also affects your insurance. So insurance companies will tell you that increased speed does result in more accidents, obviously, and more accidents would cost everyone. From their perspective, more accidents means more claims, and more claims means that your insurance rate could go up. And of course, if you're accused of speeding, then you will also, your own rate will go up, and you'll have to pay a lot more. So not, again, speeding.
Even if you're not paying it right now, but it would happen to your parents, so. So we want this sign right here, to be posted on every road in New York State. And the signs, it includes a daylight speeding sign and a reduced nighttime, speeding sign.
So this is the already existing speed limit sign you see. We just want this added to the bottom of every single sign, which will be 10 miles per hour less than the actual daytime speed limit. Oh, and you're paying for it. You might not realize this, but road traffic injuries place a huge economic burden. They are estimated to cost more than $100 billion of your U.S. dollars per year.
That involves, if someone doesn't have insurance and they get in a car crash, you can't be denied, access to a hospital. So the taxpayers have to pay for that hospital visit with all the, medical bills and whatnot. Okay. So there are 11 regions in New York, according to the New York State DOT, which is Department of Transportation. And there are approximately 3,000 speed limit signs posted on state highways in just one region. So in just one, there was about 3,000. And one speed limit sign costs approximately $60 each. So if you, altogether there are approximately 33,000 speed limit signs in New York State. If you do 33,000 signs and you multiply it by $60, that's approximately $2 million just to put the signs up. But noting that the posts are already there, so all you have to do is put 2 screws into the already existing ones, and the new signs.
Yeah, we're not asking for new signs. We're just asking to revise what's already there. And you think $2 million is a lot? It's really not at all compared to.
This information was from Reed Schultz, which was our interview about, which was our contact.
He's the head of the Traffic Safety and Mobility Division in the New York State Department of Transportation. So how will we pay this? Well, the money needed to pay for the cost addition of posted nighttime speed limits to existing posted speed limit signs currently in all New York State jurisdictions will be taken out of the New York State budget. For one time and one time only, a very small percentage of taxpayer dollars will go towards the initial upfront cost of this project. These costs would constitute less than 0.1% of New York State's general fund budget. So again, very minor. Counties, cities, towns, and villages will be reimbursed by the state for the cost of posting nighttime speed limits within their respective jurisdictions. After this amount is paid, all future costs, including maintenance, will be charged to the already existing state aid to localities budget, which provides funding for road maintenance. So we're not asking for any more maintenance than we already have, so just, again, there's no extra cost to this. It's only the signs we have to put up. And all money is generated from fines paid by motorists, issued uniform traffic tickets by violating posted nighttime speed limits, will go directly to a dedicated fund within the state budget to cover any ongoing costs associated with the posting and enforcement of nighttime speed limits. So again, if you're speeding, you'll get the ticket and that goes to us anyways, so that also helps. In the end, we still get money and we end up paying it, we'll get reimbursed.
The revenue comes back.
Revenue just comes right back to us.
Okay. So it is estimated that the reduced number of nighttime property and personal injury accidents resulting from this legislation will save motorists over $100 million a year in insurance costs alone, which means that ultimately this legislation will generate significant savings to taxpayers. So I know you guys are concerned, well, taxpayers right now, most of you. So don't think that this will raise your taxes, because there'll be that one initial thing and it'll come from the budget, so you won't even see a tax raise. And then it'll actually won't be any, get them higher.
Okay, so then it all sounds great. So we did our own survey and we went to people around the Capital District, people from my parents' work and even people from our school. And we did get some negativity, and I know that there's other things that, kind of are against this, but especially the truck drivers who are paid, so we are aware of that. They're paid for how much time they travel in a given time, so that is one little bump in the road. But everything else here, we said that among the 41-60 age group, 60% opposed the idea. But the age group 21 to 40 and 61% indicated that most support approximately 60%. So we kind of got a balance out here. And I'm not sure why certain groups have certain percentages, but that happened to be that. So the final category of individuals 20 and younger were split even, and all those categories supporting lower nighttime speed limits, the suggestion reduction was overwhelmingly 10 miles per hour. Because we asked them, like, how much lower do you think we should go, and 10 miles per hour was no. And, okay, so, and now I would like to introduce George Slagan, Trooper George Slagan, retired New York State police officer. Officer Slagan, Trooper Slagan, has experienced and seen firsthand the dangers associated with nighttime driving. He will be sharing some of his experiences and explaining what he sees as some of the benefits of establishing a nighttime speed limit.
Thank you. First of all, I was going to point out one of the common threads when you were talking about all the accidents that were described in the pictures on here was the word teenagers. Primarily that's because teenagers are not experienced, or they think they are. And teenagers are the ones that are most in jeopardy because they're out for the first time on their own at night driving, and they think they're invincible. And unfortunately, that's the experience I've had too over the years, is that most of the serious accidents involve teenagers who are involved as the drivers or as the victims in accidents. Now, just to give you a little bit of a background on myself, I retired from the state police a few years ago after 24.5 years. I then worked for the Department of Defense Police in Michigan on military installations. I've also retired from the Army, so I'm retired. I have had a lot of experience on the roads in this area, in Dutchess County, where I started out with the state police. And the only thing I can tell you is that the most horrific accidents I've ever seen were happen at night. Because people drive, as these young ladies point out, beyond their headlights. When you're driving your car at night, you can't see as far as you think you can. You can see bits and pieces off in the distance, you can see things that are lit up in your headlights, but by the time you see them, they're on top of you, or you're on top of them. Animals cause accidents as well as being the victims themselves of accidents. I've seen car deer accidents where people in the car were killed or seriously injured because of the animal. Not even talking about the animal, people can get hurt. The car is not invincible or invulnerable to damage. And today's cars are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're more likely to cause damage. Some of the accidents that I can recall that specifically come to mind are ones involving parents who are in a hurry to get home after a party, or to get home, to take the kids home and get them to bed, and they're driving quickly at night. And you don't know what the other drivers are thinking, doing, or even if they're awake. So by the time you perceive a threat or a problem, you have to recognize it, react to it, step on the brakes, and the car has to stop. And all that in half the time that you need, half the time that you get. So it's more important that you think ahead to what your life is like when you're driving down the road. I have done some stupid things in my time. I've driven too fast many times. And I've also been involved in a couple of accidents. Not necessarily because of anything I was doing wrong, but because something just happens in front of you. A tree down, a car pulling out in front of you, a deer walking across the road, a drunk wandering out into the road. These are all things that can end up causing you problems, pain, and misery. Because it doesn't go away after the accident's over, it's always in your head. The main thing that I want to be forthcoming about is the fact that you are in control of your own destiny when you're behind the wheel of a car. You're in control of your own destiny, but you can't account for everybody else. So you have to be prepared for other things that other people will do. Reducing the speed limit gives you that little extra second or two to react to things, and to make an evasive move, or to stop the car, or pull off the road. I can't say it often enough. Cars can be dangerous. Every time I see one of these tiny little new cars that they have out, I wonder how people are going to survive. Actually 2 years ago now, I saw one of those smart cars on the back of a tow truck. If anybody was in it when it was in its accident, they're either dead or maimed. They don't protect you. And even a full-size car, it only protects you just so far. It depends on how the accident occurs and what hits you, or what you hit. There was an incident down in Dutchess County many years ago where a guy hit a deer. The deer came through his windshield. He died as a result of the deer being still alive, kicking and thrashing inside of his car. And the same thing can happen in an automobile accident with another car. You don't know what part of that car is going to enter your car, or if it's going to enter your car, and seatbelts only protect you as long as you're in your place. If part of the car comes in, steering wheel, part of the windshield, or part of the vehicle that you hit, or the vehicle that hit you, it becomes a missile inside your vehicle. That's why they don't like you having things on the back deck or laying loose in the car, because when you're in a collision, those things start flying around the car. I met a woman on an aircraft a couple of years ago when I was flying back to Albany. She had one eye because she was in an automobile accident in which a book that she had on the rear deck of her car flew around the inside of the car and hit her in the face. She lost her eye over that. So now we're back to slowing the vehicles down. The idea of reducing the speed limit by 10 miles at night, it doesn't seem like much, but every little bit helps. The whole idea is to make sure that whatever you do makes your life safer and other people's lives safer. Is there anybody here that's had an accident? Just one?
Yeah.
Okay. Did somebody hit you or did you hit somebody else?
I didn't hit anybody. I hit a rock.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
And again, was it at nighttime or in the daytime?
It was at night. It was during a snowstorm.
So you can attest all this too.
Yeah.
If you'd been going just a little bit slower, maybe you could have avoided it. Maybe. I wasn't there. You were. You could answer that question better than I. Those are the kinds of things you have to think ahead about. And in the world in which we live now, people do stupid things. Not us, but do stupid things to us. And you got to think ahead to what could happen. Somebody puts a rock in the road, somebody leaves something in the road, something falls off a truck or a car in the road, it becomes an obstacle. And either your actions trying to avoid the obstacle, or actually when you strike the obstacle, it can cause an even more serious accident. Were you involved in an accident where you were hit?
Yeah.
Day or night? So you can attest to this as well. Sometimes reducing the speed a little bit gives you just a little more reaction time to avoid something. There's no panacea, there's nothing that will cure all the problems on the highway. The whole idea is to try and give everybody an even shot. And there are people who will balk at reducing the speed limit for their own personal gain. Truck drivers, as was mentioned. These are guys whose living is getting from point A to point B in a certain amount of time. Reduce the speed limit, it costs their company more money, and it slows down the process of moving the goods from one point to another. So there's always somebody that has an argument for something and something with an argument against something. The idea with most legislation is to try and find something that provides the most good to the public in general. That's the best way I can put it. You've got to think ahead from that. And I like this idea of reducing the speed limit. And you said a couple of states already do it?
Yeah. Not like full states, but like parts of different states, like Florida has it towards like the tip area. I believe even Colorado, some parts that have that. So it's coming, but it's taking a while, but it's coming.
They had it in all the state roads in Texas, but they just recently got rid of that last
The
year.
law expired. And I asked your father earlier, have you ever driven in Texas? I have driven in Texas, and you drive for hours and hours and hours in a straight line. And you'd like to go faster, to get it over with. But it's not necessarily a good thing because there's all sorts of things that can happen. They have wildlife down there too. The most serious nighttime accident I ever saw was a car that hit a horse. The horse broke free from its chain link fence, or not chain link fence, a barbed wire fence, got out on the road, guy came over a hill crest and was going about 55, 60 miles an hour, and the horse was right there. There's no way to react to that. And the horse was put down. He was seriously injured. The guy in the car was sent to the hospital. He had a concussion. I don't know about you, but whether I survive or not, I'd rather not have a concussion. The whole idea is to prepare for the worst. You do that in all things in life. Realize that not everything is going to go as well as it's going for you maybe right now. There are things you have to consider. Driving is a very serious obligation, very serious responsibility. So you got to keep yourself alert to other people that don't share your responsibility and don't drive safely. I saw 2 incidents on the way here today that were frightening. People who just don't stop where they're supposed to stop, don't signal, turn. The last car accident I was in Michigan. I was driving a marked police car. I came to a stop sign for the other intersection. As I was going past the stop sign, a guy pulled around the car that was stopped and pulled out. When I first saw him, he was right here where you guys are, right in front of me. He wasn't hurt and I wasn't hurt, but it could have been much more serious. He was just anxious. He was late picking up his girlfriend. So you got to think about the reasons people have. They think about the reason, but they don't think about the consequences of their actions. So it's just something you got to think ahead for yourself. Plan for the worst. If the legislation can be, what's the best word, pushed to reduce the speed limit at night, it's a good thing. Whether it happens or not would take a lot of politicking and see what I'm looking for. People who are always pushing for, I can't think of a word. Close enough. But you know, you have to think ahead, and if you really feel as strongly about this as you should be, in order to push this forward, you have to work hard to do it. You have to talk to a lot of people, you have to make a lot of people aware of your reasons for it, and get them on board to support you. And it takes letters and petitions and politicking with politicians. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we're just gonna read that bill over now. So this is to decrease the current speed limit set in place from dusk to dawn throughout the state of New York by 10 miles per hour on all roads, including major highways. And this is just our, next slide, our definition of speed limit again.
In order to add max safer roadways at night, the speed limit shall be reduced by 10 miles per hour, like we talked about, on all roads in New York, including major highways and back roads.
Lower nighttime speed limits will increase the safety of all drivers, passengers, and pedestrians, giving the following facts. A driver's vision is reduced by 50% at night, blind spots are unnoticeable, and it is harder to see objects such as deer and pedestrians.
And we already did mention this earlier in the presentation, but it's about the driving to your distance with the headlights.
Yeah.
Again, with only 60 miles per hour, it's still hard.
We kind of went over all this. New signs shall be put in place under the existing speed limit signs, stating the lower speed limits, nighttime speed limit signs. With additional labor expenses incurring by existing road maintenance crews and being reimbursed, section 11.
And then Mary found this actually, that obviously if you see like on the road, you see a posted nighttime speed limit, you might automatically think this might be a dangerous road, I better be careful. So if we had this around New York State, maybe people would start finally, being careful on the roads, driving slower.
And that's it.
Actually, there's one more thing. And then anyone violating the terms of this bill shall be subject to a $50 fine on first offense and a $100 fine for subsequent violations.
There's also, what's in place now is the point system. I don't know if you're aware, like, depending on the severity of your offense, you can get anywhere from like 3 to 11 points for an offense. 3 points is like driving 10 miles an hour or under, 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. And if you get 11 points deducted within 18 months, you get your license totally suspended for at least a month. So that would be the consequences. Yeah. We would love to hear any questions that you guys have.
What time would you consider nighttime?
Dusk to dawn.
That's done.
I have two actually. The first one, I'm just kind of